So I wanted, sorry, I'm moving myself around here. I wanted to tell the story of this lovely woman, just because it's so sad. I mean, but it's one of many back in the Holocaust days. But didn't have to be that way if the people themselves, nurses, doctors, had they, instead of just going along with what they're being told, if people had stood up and said, no, this isn't right. We have fallen into that same trap. We have. Because people just follow, they do what they're told. I mean, that should be hit so far in nursing school that you can never use that as an excuse, never. Because that is exactly what most of the nurses in the Holocaust used. And some did hang at the gallows for the part they took in it. But especially one who committed suicide. I mean, there wasn't a lot of them, but I don't know what happened to them because there was many that took part. But I think only 3 that hung in the gallows. But one was supposed to hang as well, but she ended up dying. I think it wasn't determined that she would hang. She committed suicide before she died. But during the trial, all the nurses said the same thing. I was doing what I was told. It's the worst thing to freaking say. That should be like the hallmark of the nursing education system. But I'm sure the hallmark is right now is that we're not going to teach about the frontal lobe and how it's not fully formed until the early to mid-20s. And so no child should be deciding about their gender. That's why we don't just let them use drugs or alcohol when they want. But I'm sure that's not being taught anymore, and I'm sure what's instead replaced it is children have a right to change their genders and go to hospitals, and surgeons will cut their parts off. I'm sure it is. I don't know that. I just assume. Given kindergarten class and all the other, education where it's at, I'm sure that nursing school. So that'll be great nurses that coming out of there. So just before I get to this, I wanted to mention many intellectuals, including scientists, have lent pseudoscientific support to racist thinking. Yeah. Many intellectuals. 19th century racist thinkers such as Houston Stewart Chamberlain exerted a significant influence on many in Adolf Hitler's generation. Racism included racial anti-Semitism, prejudice against or hatred of Jews based on false biological theories was always an integral part of the German National Socialism agenda. So this is where when in 2020, when I guess there was many red flags I've mentioned for me before with the hospital system, but the biggest alarming one, well, they were all alarming, but the one that said, oh God, when I started thinking about Germany and all of the history there, was when all the hospitals in Chicagoland and the surrounding suburbs sent out that letter saying, after George Floyd, it's almost like they used that to do all this because they all did it in lockstep, but sent out their letters saying we stand with Black Lives Matter, and then CDC and HHS, all the corrupt organizations that no one should listen to. But still, people will do it, right? Because they're just going to stay mindless and believe experts. But instead of look at history. However, and they said the new public health crisis was systemic racism. Mm-hmm. The very racists themselves, the same kind of science. Mm-hmm. And then what have they gone on to do? Bring in health equity, which is racist. It's about diversity. They say it's about diversity, inclusion, equity. Why isn't it about straight up equality? Just equal. Things are equal. No, equity. We have to use equity. And then we're going to, as I've said, make sure, we're going to go so off the deep end that we're going to be a nursing profession that supports children changing their genders. We're not going to look at the transgender, and maybe there's overall that there's a mental health component here. No, let's not go there. But what's more infuriating to me is just what adults want to do, it's your business. But I would say make sure you get enough mental health help before you just go down this road. But it should not be being pushed on children, which is why all these nurses should not. I mean, these nurses at the professional level. And you know what? People can decide. I mean, when this ship turns and all these people are held accountable, like liability-wise, because I think there'll be a ton of there won't be any of these and Trump I'm just saying, that's why I've told people, be careful what you go along with. Because many people, especially that you listen to if you're a nurse, they should have never got on board with what they did. Unless they don't know history. But if you know right from wrong, and there's practically nobody that doesn't know right from wrong except a baby, then they shouldn't have. Why do they keep going down this road of health equity? It's dangerous. It's sick. And it's the same thing they did in the 30s. I think they think that if they can just be successful, then they'll be in the clear. You'll never be in the clear. For any of you, and I know there's a ton of those nurses, okay, at the professional organizations that wouldn't listen to a thing I say because they're too filled with all their degrees, okay? But look, even if you were to be successful in everything you want to do right now, you eventually will face the judgment of a God. And if you continue down this track, then just realize that even if in the short time you have here on earth, you're successful in lying, propagandizing, doing harm by pushing transgenderism on children, helping to create division and being racist towards whites. Actually, no, being racist towards whites and blacks, because you're racist. You hate Americans. You support only the undocumented migrants. That's who you support. It's very clear. It's all over your papers. But you eventually have to meet your maker. So you can say, I don't believe in God. I don't believe it. That's fine. Doesn't mean that's not going to happen. Okay. So as you can see here, this was Helene. She went by a nickname Helly. Melania Liebel. It's really sad. Helene was raised as a Catholic in Vienna. Her father died in action during World War I when Helene was just 5 years old, and her mother remarried when Helene was 15. Known affectionately as Helly, Helly loved to swim and go to the opera. After finishing her second education, she entered law school in 1933. At 19, Helly first showed signs of mental illness. Her condition worsened during 1934, and by 1935, she had to give up her law studies and her job as a legal secretary. After losing her trusted fox terrier, Liddy, she suffered a major breakdown. She was diagnosed as schizophrenic and was placed in Vienna Psychiatric Hospital. 2 years later, in March 1938, the Germans annexed Austria to Germany. That was 1940. Helene was confined in the hospital and was not allowed to leave. Her family believed that she would soon be released. Instead, Helene's mother was informed in August that Helene had been transferred to a hospital in Niedenhart, just across the border in Bavaria. In fact, Helene was transferred to a converted prison in Germany, where she was undressed, subjected to a physical examination, and led into a shower room. And then you know what happened after they were led into showers. Yeah, recognize the similarities. We may not be at the shower, but you're supposed to recognize it before you get there. And unfortunately, all the higher educated aren't getting a clue.